Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your consideration. I have to go preside over the Senate in 10 minutes, known as presiding officer duty, which Lieutenant Esper and Lieutenant Milley could relate to staff duty back in their days. It's a duty, not an honor, and only the most junior personnel get to pull it. Secretary Esper, I want to commend your remarks at the Munich Security Conference about the threat that Huawei poses to the United States and our NATO allies. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like all of our NATO allies got the message or agree with it. Could you talk about the threat that Huawei's presence in Europe, especially in nations where we have troop presence, threatens our security and NATO security?
Yes, Senator. Since my first NATO defense ministerial in June of last year, so I've been to 3 or 4 now, I've had a common message, one of many, and this is the threat that Huawei technology imposes on our networks. And the message has been that if our NATO allies incorporate Huawei technology, it may very well have a severe impact on our ability to share information, to share intelligence, to share operational plans, and for the alliance to conduct itself as an alliance. The fact of the matter is some countries get it, many more don't. It's a continual process where we're trying to work, and I think we also need to work together, some countries, on alternatives to Huawei, because otherwise we will find the alliance compromised in due course.
Should some of our allies in Europe move forward with Huawei and their networks, will we have to at least consider our force posture in those countries, given what it means for the security and privacy of our troops and their families?
I think, Senator, depending on how they move forward, we're going to have to assess what they've done and how they've done it and make an assessment for each country, and then from there decide what we're going to do with regard to those things I mentioned, information sharing, intelligence sharing, so forth.
Okay. Last month, there were media reports that the Department of Defense had reservations about a regulation related to Huawei. The Commerce Department has proposed that regulation has now moved forward with none of those objections. Could you just make clear for us and maybe all the people that work for you directly what the Secretary's position is on Huawei?
Well, I'm very concerned about Huawei and other Chinese technologies, so I think we need to take a very careful eye with regard to our export controls, Chinese technology in general, Huawei specifically, and I think we need to be very conscious of Chinese technology in our system. By the same token, I need to balance the equation, make sure we understand our own technology companies and ensuring that we have access to that as well. But overall, I'm very concerned about Chinese technology, espionage, cyber theft, you name it. It's ongoing and has been for many years in our country.
Thank you. On the topic of espionage, let's turn to Russia and specifically the Open Skies Treaty and how they use that and how they cheat on it in their own country, specifically refusing to allow us to fly open skies flights over Kaliningrad, their strategically located enclave in Europe, and also around and near Georgia. Other witnesses in the past in front of this committee, like General Dunford, General Milley's predecessor, Vince Stewart, former head of DIA, have testified that Russia has been cheating on the Open Skies Treaty, that we don't get much benefit out of it as long as they're cheating, that it even called it a relic of the past. Do you think that the Open Skies Treaty still serves United States interests, given the fact that Russia continually cheats on that treaty?
Senator, they have been cheating for many years. I raised this at the defense ministerial last month. With all of our NATO partners, that we need to speak out more clearly about Russian noncompliance. You mentioned Georgia and Kaliningrad. Those are 2 good examples. We've also been denied access to military exercise overflights. There are some other issues that we cannot discuss in this session, which we should come and talk to you about. But I have a lot of concerns about the treaty as it stands now.
So I noted that the President's budget did not include money to recapitalize the Open Skies Treaty aircrafts, the OC-135s, but I've also heard that there may be, as early as next month, the possibility of contracts announced to modernize those aircraft. What can you tell us about that use of funds?
At this point in time, until we make a final decision on the path forward, I'm not prepared to recapitalize aircraft. I want to make sure we understand what the direction is. I would note that many of our allies that are in the Open Skies Treaty, and I've talked to them a lot, this is important to many of our NATO allies, that they have the means to conduct the overflights. We still have the means to conduct overflights. I was at Offutt Air Force Base just last week. I had a chance to walk about one of the OC-135s and talk to the crew and take a look at the aircraft. But at this point in time, we're holding until we get better direction.
Good. Thank you.